Welcome to ETM 260 Computer Aided Design. This is Lecture 4, Editing, Extruding, and Revolving Sketches. This video is supplemented with a given PowerPoint for the class. We will go over different techniques that can be used to edit sketches. To start, we're going to open the part given to you, Lecture 4, Part 1. The first tool that we will go over is going to be Quick Trim. In order to do so, we're going to double click on the sketch to open it, and then we're going to go into the direct sketch, and we're going to go for Quick Trim. Quick Trim is a tool that is used to cut or remove unnecessary curves from the particular sketch. So in this case, we would like to remove this bottom parts of the circle. You could do so simply by clicking on the part, or you could drag and notice that you create a path, and you will be able to get rid of the part. Now let's continue with Quick Extend and make a corner. To do so, we're going to close this sketch, and we're going to open Lecture 4 Part 2, and we're going to double click on the sketch. Quick Extend is a tool that is used to extend one of the lines until it meets the next one that is to its proximity. For example, notice that we would like to extend this line until it reaches this line that we have over here. In order to do so, we go to Direct the Sketch, we click on the Quick Extend icon, and then notice that we simply are going to put our mouse in top of the line that we would like to extend, and it's going to show us where it's going to stop. If you're happy with your selection, simply click and it will do it for you. The second tool that we would like to go over is going to be Corner. To corner, what it does, it creates a corner between two lines. The only condition is that these two lines cannot be parallel to each other. So we would like to create a corner between this line and this line without having to do the construction. To do so, we simply select the Make Corner icon. We select the lines that we would like to use, and notice that it creates the corner. If you're happy with your selection, simply click and it will do it for you. In order to go over the next tool, we're going to open the next file, which is going to be Lecture 4 Part 3. The next tool that we would like to go over is Offset. Offset is a tool that is used to duplicate curves in a closed or open path up at a particular distance. In order to do so, we're going to open the sketch by double clicking on it. So notice that we have exactly the same part twice. The only difference between it is that in this one, notice that we have all the coincident constraints. In this one, we're missing the one over here in the corner, which means that this is an open path, this is a closed path. So we're going to start showing you how to use the Offset tool. In order to do so, we're going to go to the Direct Sketch, going to look down, and we're going to use the icon for Offset Curve. When we have this, notice that the menu, it allows us to select a curve. When you select a curve, you go into this area for the menus of the choices that you're going to have. Notice that we have either single curve, connected curves, tangent curves, or curves in a group. So we're going to try now simply single curve to show you all the different possibilities that you have in the Offset tool. So we're going to do single curve, and I'm going to choose this curve. Notice that it provides you by default one line. The distance that I have at this moment is 5 millimeters. If you would like to change the distance, simply write a new number. Let's see, 2.5. And then notice that it changes the direction, the distance. If we would like to change the direction, simply click on this icon and notice how it goes back and forth depending on the direction that you would like. If you like the offset to be done to both directions, simply click the symmetry offset. So notice that it goes into two directions. By default, it gives you only one line offset. If you want more, simply increase the number and notice how it changes. Once you're happy with your selection, simply click OK. If you zoom in now, notice that each one of them is going to have this symbol, which means that it's an offset constraint. If you would like to change or you figure something is wrong with the offset, simply double click on the constraint and it will bring you back to the original information, and you could do changes as you wish. I'm going to undo this offset so that I could show you how to do the offset of a closed path. So I'm going to select the offset tool again. In this case, instead of a single curve, I'm going to do a connected curve. This is a good way also to test that the path that you have is closed, to select connected curves. So notice that if I select one, if it's properly closed, it should select all of them. And just to show you how it is, I'm going to reduce the number of copies, and I'm going to take away the symmetry. And notice once again, notice how a offset is created around the path that you have. So now let's try to do it in an open path. We go to the offset. We're going to do once again connected curves. And since we already know that this is open, notice that when you select one, it's only going to do up to here, and it's missing that one. So we're going to select that one by itself. And then notice that it gives you an error. And it's because the ones that are connected are only the ones that are in this direction. If we switch it, let's try to see if it allows us to do this, and it doesn't again. So notice that the offset tool requires a closed path for you to be able to have a appropriate offset done into the particular sketch that you use. The next tool that we're going to use is mirror the curve. Mirror the curve is a tool to duplicate one or more curves about a given axis of symmetry. To show you how it's done, we're going to use the same sketch. We're going to go into the direct sketch menu, and we're going to select mirror the curve. We're going to start by mirroring this whole sketch about the y-axis. So in order to do so, we're going to select the curves. We're going to use connected curves, and then the axis of symmetry is going to be the y-axis. So once we're done with our selection, we simply hit OK. Notice the symbol that you have over here is for that mirror constraint that we're going to have. Notice that what that means is that if you change any dimensions or anything in this original part, so let's see if we do something like this, and we change it to 65, let's say, then the mirror image will change with it. So now what we like to do is going to mirror this curve, but now it's going to be about this line. The process is a little bit different. We're going to select mirror the curve, and in this case we're going to do single curve, since we want to make sure that we do not select the line that we're going to use as an axis of symmetry. So we select this all around, and then we select the last line as your center line. And once you're happy with your selection, click OK. Once again, this is now a mirror constraint, and notice that the line became a construction line or a center line, which represents that this is a mirror part or mirror image of what you have in this part over here. The next tool we're going to use is going to be pattern a curve. To do so, we're going to close this sketch, and we're going to open the new part, which is going to be part 4. Pattern a curve is a very useful tool to create multiple duplicates of one or more curves following a given path. We're going to start by showing you how to do a linear pattern. We're going to double click on the sketch, and what we would like to pattern is this circle along this direction first, and then I'm going to show you how to do it in two directions. So to do so, we're going to go to the Direct a Sketch menu, and we're going to select the pattern icon. The menu is this. So let's see how it's used. First, we select the curve that we would like to pattern. In this case, it's going to be the circle. And then we're going to select the direction. We're going to go parallel to the x-axis, so we could choose any of the lines that have that direction, or we could select the x-axis. So to select that, I'm simply going to select the axis, and notice that now it's showing us where the pattern is going to be placed. To select the option of how the pattern is going to be created, you got three choices: count and pitch, count and expand, pitch and expand. Count is how many elements you would like to have in your pattern. Pitch is the space that you would like to have between each one of the patterns, because it's equal. And span is the total spacing between the first and the last item in your pattern. So in this case, we're gonna do count and pitch. Let's see, we're gonna have 6 different curves, and the spacing that we're going to have is going to be 12 of them. So notice that it shows you the distance in between each of the points is going to be 12, and the quantity, including the original, is going to be 6. Notice that if you want to, you could also make the pattern, change the direction of the pattern if you wanted to go into the other direction. For this case, it will simply be in an empty space, but just wanted to show you how that will work. So that's how you will do it for one direction. If you want to add a second direction, simply activate the menu by clicking Use Second Direction, and then you follow the same steps that we did before. This is going to be the object, selects the same object. Now what we need to do is select the direction. Once again, now we're going to go in the second direction, the y-axis, so either you could select the line or the axis. Notice that it's going onto the lower direction. We would like to switch it, so we reverse the direction so it goes upwards. And then I'm going to have now let's try something different. Let's try count and span. So I'm going to have 3 of them, and the span that I would like to have it is 20. So in that case, NX will be able to determine the distance based on what information you have. So the span is the distance between the first point and the last point, and count is the number of items that you have in your particular pattern. Once you're satisfied with your selection, simply click OK. Notice that now we have the symbol over here to indicate that this is a rectangular constraint or a pattern, which means that if you click and change the original information of the first item, it was 5 millimeters, and now let's make it, let's see, 7.5. Notice that all the quantities will change with it because they're part of a pattern. Now we're going to try patterns on a radial direction. To do so, we're going to close this sketch, and we're going to open the next file, which is part 5. What we would like to do is have the circle to be patterned about this origin. We're going to click the sketch, and we're going to use exactly the same tool before, pattern curve. In this case, we're going to select once again the circle, and then we're going to switch this to be circular. We're going to specify the point that you would like it to be about. So notice that it's going to be the center, and then we change the selection based on what would you like to have. So let's see, you want to go around the span, so around the whole circle. So you want to go around 360 degrees, and then you could change the number of quantities. So we could go, let's see, to 15. Okay, and then you click OK. Once again, the fact that this is a pattern, if we change any information about the original feature, it will change with it. For example, if we change the diameter to be, let's see, 4 rather than 5, notice how all of them changed. And if we change the original location, let's see, to be 22 instead of 20, notice that all of them will move with it, once again, because they are part of a pattern. The next tools we're going to use are going to be to copy, to rotate, and to move sketches, which are tools to modify the position, the orientation, and the number of sketches. To do so, we're going to open again part 3 that we used previously. And we're going to modify the bottom part of this sketch. We double click on the sketch, and let's just start by moving it. We're going to go into the Tools menu, and we're going to click on Move Object. For the object, we're going to select, so you can select every single one of the lines, or you could simply do a rectangle about the lines or curves that you would like to select. Please make sure not to select dimensions, axes, or planes. Whenever you do your motion, you want to make sure that you use the proper location of your coordinate system. This is placed over here because this is the first line we selected. I would like this to be located at this origin. So I'm going to move the handles only. So look, I just click over here, and I'm going to move the handles from here so that it matches that point. And I'm going to unclick. It says I want to move only. Make sure that this is click and then move. And then we're going to start motions. Motions are going to be done simply by selecting a particular axis that you would like to move. So let's see, I go this way. Once you're happy with your selection, you click apply. Now let's do it again on the x-axis. So notice that once again the handle is moved over there. I like to be placed better here. And then I'm going to move it to the x-axis. You could do motions using the axis, or you could do it randomly by simply selecting this point and go to the position that you would like. To do rotation, we basically follow the same process. You select the objects that you would like to do. You move the handles to the location that you want to use as your point of rotation. So once again, I'm going to go from here to here. And then what I'm going to do to do rotation, you're going to click on this circle in this axis, and notice that is going to give you the rotation. And that rotation is going to be about the center of that coordinate system. To copy and paste an object, we follow exactly the same process. You select the values, you move the handles to the location that you would like, and then to copy and paste, simply click on copy the original. You could do this process by either rotation or translation, whichever one you need. So let's see, I'm just gonna do a random value plus a little bit of rotation, and notice that my new item is going to be placed over here. And notice that you could also select how many copies you want. In this case, I'm only going to select one. You click apply, and notice that's your new curve. Let's now move into 3 dimensions. Once a 2-dimensional sketch is completed and fully constrained, you might want to transform it into a 3-dimensional solid. The most common methods are extrusion and revolving. Let's start with extrusion. To do so, we're going to open the file, part 6. Notice that this is a completed sketch already. Before you do any extrusions or revolving, you want to make sure that the sketch is fully constrained. You could do so by doing 2 ways. Notice that if you open the part navigator and you see the status of your sketch, it says that it's fully constrained. You could also simply doing that by double clicking on the sketch, and it will tell you that it's fully constrained over here at the bottom. Extrusion is a method which adds material perpendicular to the sketch. In this case, the material will be added either going up or going down because the sketch is created in the top plane. I advise you whenever you do revolutions or extrusions that you have your sketch in a three-dimensional view or an isometric view so that it's easier to see how the process is done. To do so, simply go to this menu over here. Notice that it gives you different choices. You could use either trimetric or isometric so that you could see how it works three-dimensionally. So let's go into extrusion. We're going to click on the extrude icon, and we're going to go to different methods of doing a particular extrusion. We're going to start by selecting the outer curves only. We're going to select the curves. I will recommend you always to use connected curves, just to make sure that the curves are all touching each other and the extrusion is done properly. Once you select a line, all the lines should be selected and an extrusion automatically will be created. If it doesn't, most likely means that the path that you selected is not closed. Therefore, you need to revise your sketch. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. Excellent. So now what we're going to see is that now we have a three-dimensional sketch. Notice by default it gives us that the sketch goes upwards. If you need it to go downwards instead, you simply switch the direction, open the direction choices, and switch it, either going up or going down depending on what you would like. The next part that we have over here are the limits. The limits simply indicate the value that you would like to start and to finish with. Notice by default you start at 0, which means the location of your sketch, and in this case we have 25. You can make this larger or smaller depending on what your application is. You do not need to start at the location of the sketch. You could either start above, so notice that now it has a distance higher to the sketch, or you could start even below if that's what your object requires. So for the purpose of what I'm showing you, I'm gonna go back to 0 and 50. Then I'm gonna show you a couple of other choices that we have. We're gonna open the menu, and then notice that we're gonna start with draft. Draft is a very useful tool to create some type of angle for the extrusion that you're going to do, either going inwards to the object or outwards. For example, let's see, you want to start from the limit, and let's make it a little bit bigger, larger, so we could see the value. So notice that if we change it to 10, notice that there is an angle of 10 between the original surface and the new surface, and it's done automatically by an X. Going inwards is the default value. If you put a negative angle, it will do the same process going outwards. You could also change the selection that you're going to have if you have a section that you only want a part of your object to be drafted and not the whole thing. I'm going to remove this so I could show you the remaining of the choices. The next one is going to be offset. So offset, what it's going to do is going to create the extrusion, and it's going to add more material either going outwards or inwards, but it's going to be perpendicular and not at an angle as it was in draft. For example, if you do single-sided and you put a location, notice that it goes outwards 5 millimeters all throughout, and it does the extrusion going upwards. You could go inwards, or if you're not happy with that selection, you simply go into a negative value, and it will go into the opposite direction. You could also do two-sided, so notice that it simply goes into one direction and it creates the shell inside with the value that you provided. And you could also do it symmetrical, so that it goes the same direction inwards and outwards, depending on what your requirements are going to be. I'm going to remove the offset so that I could show you the rest of the tools that we're going to have. I'm going to click OK. And then notice that this is the first extrusion that we have. What we would like to do is show you different choices of selecting the curves or the areas that we could use for extrusion. We could modify this extrusion by double clicking on it, and then notice that what we'd like to do now is not only select the outer curves, but I would like to select the circles so that it creates the holes all at once. So I'm going to select single curves, and I'm going to go and touch each one of the circles, and notice that the holes are going to be created. So that's one way of doing it. The other way, I'm just gonna simply hide this particular extrusion so that I can show you the next method. And then we're gonna go into extrusion again, and instead of selecting curves, what I'm gonna select are the regions. And this is sometimes nicer and easier to do since you actually see the regions that you would like to do. So notice that if I select this region, you could do this way. Notice that you could select, let's see, a particular region. And if you do make a mistake, you could simply undo the selection and start all over again. So I'm going to select region again. So to do that, and then once again, you could use all the different tools that we did previously to create your extrusion. Next, I'm going to show you how to use Boolean operations. For doing that, we're going to open part 8 from lecture 4. In this part, notice that we have two different sketches. I already created an extrusion with the first sketch, and then we're going to do extrusions using the second sketch. Let's try going to extrusion. We're going to select the curve. We're going to select a boundary, and we're going to select the inner boundary only. At this moment, it gives us the same information that we had before. Notice that we have a certain limits that we would like to do, and then we have to make sure that the Boolean operation that we select is unite, so that this part unites with this bottom part that we have over here. Once you're happy with your selection, you click OK. So now, even though we have two different extrusions, they become one single part. To show you the other type of Boolean operations, I'm going to suppress this item. Simply means that it's going to be taken away or deactivate. We're going to do extrusion. We're going to do the same process. But notice that instead of going upwards, I'm going to go downwards. And what I want to do is to create a cut. So I'm going to change the direction. And not as a extrusion, but I'm going to subtract. So notice that for subtraction, you could have a couple of different choices. Either you could provide a direction if you know exactly the distance that you would like to do. Let's see, if you want only 5 millimeters, and you will get something like this. That will be one choice. If you want other choices, we're going to show you by simply double click, going back to the extrusion. If you don't want it to go to a particular distance, the other choice is to select a surface. You could do until next as one choice. So notice that if I click OK, it will go to the next surface that it finds. The other choices that you will have are going to be until selected or extended. In my experience, I will suggest you to always use until extended. So that means that you select a surface where you would like that operation to stop. And this is your final shape. And then we could see it going in this way, on the isometric direction. Now I'm going to show you the third type of Boolean operation. To do so, I'm just going to suppress this extrusion, and we're going to try it again. Extrusion. We're going to select the inner part, and then notice what we're going to do is select intersection. When we do intersection, we gotta make sure that we go into the proper direction where there is going to be intersection between them. Notice that if this goes upwards and this is downwards, there is no intersection between them. So if I try to say OK, it's going to give me an error. So if we change the direction, however, of the extrusion, now notice that they intercept with each other. We rotate it. Once you do that, you could change the limits based on the information that you want, but you gotta make sure that the limits that you use are within the intersection. So once you do that and you're happy with your selection, you click OK, and notice that this is going to be the intersection between the bodies and the limits that you provide. Now we're going to do revolutions. To do so, we're going to open the file, part 9. Revolution is a method that is used that adds material about a given axis. What we would like to do is take this particular sketch and revolve it about the z-axis. To do revolution, simply click on the arrow under extrusion to access the revolve command. You're going to select a curve. Once again, you could do it as connect the curves or as a region. Prefer region. I'm going to select this, and then you're going to select the axis by which you're going to do the rotation. So I'm going to select the z-axis, and notice that by default it takes the origin of that z-axis for the point. When do you do the rotation or the revolution? You could do it as a total revolution of 360, or you could do it partially, and we're gonna do it that way so that you could see how the revolution goes. Notice that it goes from here to 170 this direction. If you want it in the opposite, simply rotate in this way. When you're doing revolutions, you have to be careful what axis are you using for your revolution. To show you that, I'm just going to suppress this revolution to show you the other possibilities. For example, we're going to revolve the same surface, but instead of using this axis, let's see you choose a part of your sketch. So notice that now the revolution is done about that point. Once again, you could do it as a entire revolution or as a partial revolution, let's see. And then you could change the orientation. So when you are doing your revolution, it's very important to have the sketch in the appropriate plane, and also to select the appropriate axis by which you would like to do revolution about.